Good evening and welcome to our December meeting. Mark, can you call the roll, please?
Sure. Mr. Beveridge?
Here.
Mr. Boyd?
Here.
Mr. Connell?
Here.
Mr. Kuhn?
Here.
Mrs. Steele?
Here.
Mr. Wycliffe?
Here.
Dr. Yurkovich?
Here.
Thank you. Will you please stand and help me welcome the Forest View Scouts to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Dr. McMullen?
All right, good evening, and thank you for attending tonight's Olathe Public Schools Board of Education meeting. Before we begin, we feel it is important that we review the importance of conducting a productive and orderly meeting. This meeting is designated for the board to work with the superintendent and staff to conduct the work as outlined in the agenda. Please understand that patrons attending the meeting do so solely in an observatory role. Out of respect for everyone in attendance, we request that audience members not speak, yell, or give applause during the meeting. This ensures the board, staff, and other attendees are able to listen and understand the business conducted. Anyone disrupting the meeting in any capacity will be asked to leave and may lose the opportunity to attend future meetings. Thank you again for attending, and we'll now proceed with the agenda.
Thank you. Moving on to the adoption of the agenda 2.01. Is there a motion?
Move to adopt the agenda as presented. Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Beveridge and a second by Mr. Wycliffe.
Mr. Boyd?
Yes.
Mr. Beveridge?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhn?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
Dr. Yurkovich?
Yes.
Mrs. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Wycliffe?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. All right, moving on to recognitions and awards 3.01. Here.
Good evening. For tonight's awards and recognitions, we have some very special guests with us. To begin, I'd like to invite the Olathe Northwest girls golf team, including seniors Addie Raymakers, Mackenzie Kelso, Maddie Stoll, Julia Beveridge, and juniors Claire Sullivan and Avery Hirschman, along with their assistant coach, Tim Kuhlman, and athletic director, Steve Page. Earlier this semester, this team was crowned as the state champions for the second year in a row after shooting a team score of 620. 3 of these golfers placed in the top 10 individually. Avery finished with the team's top score for the second year in a row, placing 5th overall with a score of 150. Finishing in 6th place was Mackenzie, who earned a score of 152, and Claire placed 9th after shooting a 155. Congratulations to all of you. And family, if you want to come up and take a picture, you can too. A few more. Congratulations. Next, we'd like to invite our Synergy team from the Technology Division up to the front, along with Chief Technology Officer Josh Umphrey. As part of a celebration video for Synergy, Olathe was featured as one of 3 national spotlight schools for the work this team does to support the safety and security of our student information. A big congratulations and thank you goes to Shelley Gore, Assistant Director of Information Systems, Ruben Gomez, Senior Information Systems Engineer, Chris Elliott, Application Data Analyst, Tracy Herndon, Senior Information Systems Analyst, and Rita Summers, Information System Analyst. We also would like to recognize Stacy Leatherland from Synergy for being with us tonight. She is our SE database support specialist and works with the team to make sure everything is running smoothly. Join us in thanking these individuals for their incredible work. Next, we want to recognize Journey Bible Church for their collaborative efforts with Olathe Public Schools. At this time, I'd like to invite Director of Community Development, Heather Schoonover, to the front, along with representatives from Journey Bible Church, including Senior Pastor Mike Bickley and members Dallas Hayden, Jeff Brabeck, Kim Arisman, Christy Finley, Jill Hayden, Mark Hinosa, Pam Humphrey, Paul Miller, Madeline Mueller, Kristen Slavic, Chris Tatham, Colton Tatham, and Liz Tatham. This school year, Journey Bible Church has a lead ambassador to support adopt-a-school projects at 27 Olathe schools, serving from early education through high school. Here are some highlights sent in from just a few of the schools they serve. At Tomahawk Elementary, they purchased quality take-home folders to help daily communication with families. Rome Elementary shared that Journey Bible Church is great at supporting staff appreciation efforts. Black Bob Elementary consistently sees their support through community members volunteering at school events such as Trunk or Treat and the Fun Fair, and they support staff with treats and encouraging through handwritten notes. At Oregon Trail Middle School, they've assembled 150 sack lunches, paid off student lunch accounts that had negative balances, brought in snacks for CULPA testing, and supported the staff by hosting teacher appreciation ice cream socials. The Central Campus of Journey Bible Church met the needs of Indian Trail and Chisholm Trail Middle Schools by hosting an after-school program at their site. And finally, they have provided a delicious breakfast at the back-to-school outreach for our students and families experiencing homelessness, as well as the volunteers at that event for 3 years. These are just some of the ways that Journey Bible Church goes above and beyond for our schools. Thank you for all you do. I have to zoom out. Yeah, come in there. Chris, you gotta get in. And finally, I'd like to invite board members Joe Beveridge and Shannon Wycliffe to the front. Mr. Beveridge and Mr. Wycliffe both chose not to run in the last election and will be ending their terms this year. These two board members have made an immensely positive impact on the Olathe Public Schools. They have advocated for our district, engaged in the community, cheered on our staff, and have always kept our 29,000 students at the forefront of their decision-making. Both have children who either are currently attending or have graduated from our schools, and they have spent countless unpaid hours giving back to the community that has invested so much in them. And on that note, we would also like to extend our gratitude and thanks to their wives, children, and families for their support, encouragement, and sacrifices that may have been made along the way. On behalf of the district, we want to thank you both for your commitment and dedication to the success of the Olathe Public Schools and its students, families, staff, and community members. We greatly appreciate you, and we are grateful for your years of service to the district. We're going to take a quick group picture of the board, and then Joe and Shannon, if you have anything you'd like to say, you're welcome to, now or later.
Okay, I am going to say a few words here.
Go to that one.
I did cut my speech in half. It was a lot longer when I started. So I've had the pleasure of serving on this board for the last 8.5 years, and I have to tell you, it's been an amazing ride. I've learned so much about the Olathe schools during my journey, and as I stand at the end of the road and look back, I just can't help but share a few thoughts and highlights. I didn't grow up in Olathe like many of you, but my wife did. And as soon as we found out that we were expecting our first child, she insisted that we move to the Olathe for their schools. This was the first clue at how great the Olathe School District was. Then when we were here, I joined the Olathe Chamber of Commerce, and I heard over and over again what a great asset the Olathe School District was for businesses and for home values in the area. That was my second clue. Then once my kids started in Olathe, I experienced it for myself, and that's when I decided I wanted to be part of the board. There hasn't been a day that's gone by since I joined in 2015 that I didn't see firsthand behind the curtain just how fortunate we all are. But what I want to focus on tonight is that Olathe School District has never been about this building or the Board of Education or the budget. It's been about the approximately 5,000 employees that go to their school every day caring for our children just as much as they care for their own children. That's right. It's about people like Mr. Cloud, a counselor at Fairview. I've had the pleasure to spend a half hour every week at Fairview, and every time I visit, I see kids that love Mr. Cloud, and he loves them right back. I've been told stories about how he skips lunch while his food sits in the microwave to help a student in need. He works tirelessly to find the why for every student. Because of his work, each of the students actually got to have a conversation with an astronaut while they were in space. It was truly something that they'll never forget. His coworkers say he always puts his students above himself. At that same school, we have Mrs. Dean. Mrs. Dean welcomes everyone that visits Fairview with a huge smile. While she has so many responsibilities, she doesn't hesitate to drop at a moment's notice to help a student or family. She's the first person to identify when a family is in need and get them the services or resources they need. During the holidays, she helps to make sure multiple families have presents to give their children. Then we have some hometown heroes, like Mr. Barrickman, principal at Indian Trail Middle School. He's the principal at the school that he attended. How cool is that? You can just tell when you walk through the school with him that he loves his students, and they love him right back. I asked his staff to share some stories, and there was no way I can include everything without Mr. Boyd gaveling me and telling me I was out of time. But what I heard were stories of someone who develops an authentic relationship with each and every student. He has a fun and competitive way to reach students with competitive games of tic-tac-toe. It made me jealous that I never got to play tic-tac-toe with him while I was walking through the building. And then we have another hometown hero, Dr. McMullen, a former soccer phenom with Olathe North. He became the Mike Rowe of our district. For those of you that don't remember, he's the star of the TV show Dirty Jobs. Dr. McMullen gets fun jobs like redistricting and changing bus schedules. In every situation, he is quick to listen and slow to speak, and ultimately finds a path forward that is best for the most students and families in oftentimes no-win situations. So stealing the old tagline from the hair growth commercial from the 80s, I'm not only a board member of Olathe School District, but I'm also a customer. My kids have had so many amazing teachers and administrators through the years, and I'd love to talk about them all, but I don't have time tonight. So I'll just mention three teachers that have had a special effect on my kid's life. Starting with Mr. Slavin at Olathe Northwest. I'm not sure how you did it, but you helped spark a love of science for my oldest daughter. She took your class, and then she knew exactly what she wants to major in, what her passion is, and I can see her at home taking pride in working extra hard to do well in her science classes. She even has a note that you gave her years ago on her mantle that reads, "Nice work, Jerky," when she did so well on his test that they didn't have a curve. Then there's Mr. Buss. We all got to meet him last month as he was being awarded Kansas Teacher of the Year. My son was lucky enough to have him in multiple classes and as a basketball coach for 2 years. During that time, he not only taught him what he needed to learn, but you taught him how to be a better human being, how to have passion for something, and how to believe in himself and so much more. And then to our youngest, her current teacher, Mrs. Fromm. If there was a picture of the perfect elementary school teacher in the dictionary, it would be her. She has her work cut out with us with our youngest, who would rather read Harry Potter and discuss Harry Potter all day than learn how to divide fractions. But she loves her and somehow finds a way to be firm with her, but also know that she is loved and she loves going to class every day. She isn't just teaching them what they need to learn, but she's teaching them how to learn. And my daughter will be more successful in middle school because she has her as a 5th grade teacher. Public school detractors want you to think of the district as a giant government entity. They win if we let that happen. But that's not what Olathe is. Don't fall for that trap. We are made up of thousands of our neighbors, our friends, our fellow church members that also care as much about your children as they do about their own children. And in almost every instance, take less money to do so. Now I wanted to end with just a few shout outs. Mr. Hutchinson, just about the best finance person a school district could ever have. I want to thank you for being patient with me my first year, as I asked probably 2,000-3,000 questions about the school budget trying to teach myself. There was never a time that you didn't have the answer, and you were always willing to take as much time as I needed to help me out. I want to thank our prior superintendents, Dr. Barry, Dr. All, and Mr. Allison. You are all rock stars, and Olathe is better because of you. And to Barb, I think what I'll miss most about being a school board member is the smile you greet me with and every other visitor when we visit this building. And Dr. Yeager, I just couldn't be more thrilled that I'm leaving while you're superintendent. You were born to be superintendent of Olathe. My hope is that you break records for how long you will be as superintendent here. And in the words of my teenage son's friends, I love you, bro. And a thank you to all my fellow board members. It was an honor to serve with them. A special thank you to Amy Martin, Connie Owen, Kristen Schultz, Brian Gary, and Harry Mullins, my own campaign dream team from 2015. If you have not been a fan of my time on the school board, these are the 5 to blame. These 5 got me elected, while me and my family spent 2 weeks in China adopting our beautiful daughter right before the election. Thank you to my amazing children. You are my why, and I am so proud to call you Dad. And thank you to my wife, Jill, the love of my life. Thanks for taking a chance on a guy with a questionable haircut, even more questionable dance skills on our first date, and I had just quit my job as a waiter at Applebee's. None of this would have happened without you by my side. You made everything better, and I love you. Thank you.
Mr. Wycliffe, Mr. Beveridge took all of your time.
I 100% agree. And as we were talking, who wants to go first? Clearly the answer should have been, why don't you let me go? Because I don't want to follow that necessarily. I'll keep my remarks brief. You know, I said a lot of this last month in board comments. I can't thank this staff enough. It has been an honor working with you, and one of the things that I will miss about this is not getting to work with you on, you know, a day in, day out sort of basis. So thank you for all you do. Thank you for the leadership. and that goes down to the school level with people that I have worked with. I look across and I see a lot of friends right now, which has been so awesome to be able to develop relationships for me. I am an Olathe kid. My wife is too. Since this is about Dr. McMullen again, evidently this is going to be one of those meetings. It was Olathe East, Jim, not South. Yep. It's truly been an honor. I'm only going to do a couple of individuals, but I think and I hope that you all know the care that I have for you. I want to thank Mr. Beveridge. Joe and I came onto the board at the same time. We've been through a lot of the same stuff, and his leadership has just been top-notch. I've appreciated every superintendent that I've gotten to work with. Brent, I think that you are just a jewel, and more people need to know about your leadership. Beamer. I love coming in and seeing you. Me too. And to my beautiful wife, who has endured this and this time and been so supportive of me in staying up late nights when I need to talk through things. I love you, Steph. That's all. Thank you.
All right, moving on to information and presentations. We'd like to welcome the principal at Forest View Elementary, Principal Jason Watkins.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Jason Watkins, and I am blessed to be the principal of Forest View Elementary. I want to thank the board, first and foremost, for giving me this opportunity to spotlight our amazing school. Tonight, you guys are in for a treat. You're going to get to see students from our school showcase our great school using their leadership genius, which you're going to see a lot of tonight. So I'm going to hand this off to just two of our many amazing teachers at Forest View. This is Miss Megan Bricks, our music teacher, and Miss Sheffield, our third grade teachers.
Hello. Like he said, my name is Lynn Sheffield, and I teach third grade at Forest View Elementary. And I am just so blessed to teach at such an amazing school. I helped open Forest View in 2009, so I think we're on year 15 if I do my math correctly. But there's so many things that make our school so special, but one of them is how we help empower students to lead their learning. And so how we do that is through a program called The Leader in Me. And in 2013, we wrote a grant, and we got that grant from Panda Express, actually, and we started on this journey of leadership over the next 3 or 4 years. And it was just an amazing thing I experienced, and I loved it, and I learned so much, and hopefully the students did too, about how to set goals, how to use the habits, and how to just lead through everything we do at Forest View. So in January of 2017, our school was awarded the Leader in Me Lighthouse Award, the status of that. So at that time, there was only one other school in Kansas, and that was a school in Wichita that had that status. And so that was pretty exciting. As of today, there's less than 10 schools in Kansas, and we hope there become more. And I know there's a few other schools in Olathe that also have become Leader in Me Lighthouse schools. So thank you so much for letting us be here today. And we're excited to showcase all the amazingness that you're going to see with our students here in just a moment.
And again, as Mr. Watkins said, my name is Miss Bricks. I am the music teacher at Forest View, and we are just so excited to have our kids be able to share this experience with you, because within our school, from the moment they are in kindergarten to their very last day in 5th grade, they take the ownership of all the events that we do in our school. So with my musicals, it is completely student-led. With all of our assemblies, it's completely student-led. So we are very excited for them to show off what we do each and every day here at Forest View.
I feel like maybe we could use this and they could just see her. Okay. Go ahead. Are you ready? Go ahead.
We have a school mission statement that we say every day on the announcements. Our whole Forest View School tries our best to follow that mission statement each day. Our school mission statement is success through respect, responsibility, and leadership. Forest View is a Leader in Me Lighthouse School, and we use the 8 habits based off of Stephen Covey's habits of highly effective people. We use the 7 habits tree to remind us how we could grow from using the habits daily. Every kindergartner receives the 7 Habits of Happy Kids books so they can practice the habits at home too. Habit 1. Be proactive. I am in charge of myself and I make good choices. Habit 2. Begin with the end in mind. I set goals and have a plan. Habit 3. Put first things first. I work first, then play. Habit 4. Think win-win. I always try to come up with win-win solutions. Habit 5. Seek first to understand and then to be understood. I listen with my eyes, ears, and heart. Habit 6. Synergize. Together is better. Habit 7. Sharpen the saw. Balance is best, and I try to take care of my mind, body, heart, and soul. Habit 8. Find your voice and inspire others to find theirs. We would like to show the motions for the habits. Habit 1. Be proactive. Habit 2. Begin with the end in mind. Habit 3. Put first things first. Habit 4. Think win-win. Habit 5. First to understand, then to be understood. Habit 6. Synergize. Habit 7. Sharpen the saw. Habit 8. Find your voice.
At Forest View, we have wildly important goals which we call WIGs. We have a school-wide WIG which is 100% of Forest View students will grow in math and reading from August 2023 to May 2024. We have this posted in our front hallway so everyone can see how our school has been doing.
We have two types of WIGs. The first one is academic WIGs. We use fast read scores to set math and reading goals.
We also set personal goals. Like an example would be that I would clean my room at least 5 days a week.
Every month, we record our class wigs on a chart, and then a poster gets hung up in the school hallways showing the overall score for the whole school. We also meet with our accountability partners to show how we are progressing on our personal and academic wigs. In kindergarten, we are writing letters. Every single week, we practice writing them. I have a wig for reading. For example, I will go from a 380 to a 385 on my IXL rating strategies. I then record my successes on a scoreboard each day like the one in the picture. We also meet with our accountability partners to be sure we are completing our goals. Each week, third graders complete 2 IXL skills based on our standard and record them on our scoreboard in our leadership notebook. We then meet with our accountability partners on Fridays to celebrate.
Every year, students, staff, and parents take a measurable result survey through the Leader in Me. We use this to help support both personal and academic growth.
This year, we are working on family engagement and collective and instructional efficacy. We have a big poster in the front hallway so everyone can remember these. Forest View uses expectation matrix to help us remember how to be respectful, responsible, and a leader in all areas around the school. I can be respectful in the hallways by being quiet and facing forward. I can be responsible on the playground by being safe with the equipment and being kind to everyone. I can be a leader in the cafeteria by being quiet and eating my food correctly. If we get caught following the expectations on the matrix, we might receive a fox card, which is super exciting. We save these up to redeem them every Wednesday using a choice board. One of my favorite choices is sit by a friend at lunch.
We love to celebrate success by doing a cheer. We would like to do a cheer for you to celebrate all the work that you do for us. Ready, set, go.
SUCCESS. We applaud you for your success. FORESTVIEW. Woo!
What is the best part of Forest View? We would like to share with you what we think. I think the best part of Forest View is the leadership roles because we can share with the school what our talents are in individual ways.
I think the best part of Forest View is that the teachers are so nice and help us learn how to be leaders. I think the best part of Forest View is because we have the best teachers. My favorite part about Forest View is the fox cards because we are all great leaders to receive them, and I received fox cards for helping in preschool for 15 minutes. We hope you We hope you enjoyed hearing about our awesome school. We would like to close by singing our school song that was actually made up by a Forest View student many years ago.
Miss Briggs, do you guys want to come maybe over here? That might be good for audio-visual purposes.
All right.
Good
Welcome,
evening.
Cassie Osborne.
Yeah, it's always fun to follow singing, adorable little children to talk about the audit. So, all right. Well, good evening. Later tonight, you'll be asked to approve our audited financial statements for the year that ended June 30th, 2023. And tonight we have our special guest, Jonathan Nybarger of Allen Gibbs Hulick. We've engaged them to complete our financial audit, and he's going to give you an overview of that process and the results.
Good evening. I'm Jonathan Nybarger with AGH, and I was the auditor in charge of the audit this year. I'll briefly go through our reports with you and then answer any questions that you may have. Starting off in the financial statements, pages 1 through 3 are the auditor's report. The auditor's report includes standards that we use for the audit, but most importantly, what everyone's interested in is what opinion we issued. The opinion can be found on the first page in the first section. We issued an unmodified opinion, which is the highest and best opinion the district can receive, and I feel like that also speaks very highly on the financial management of the school district. The next section that I wanted to point out in the financial statements is towards the end on page 124. And is the governmental audit section, and begins with the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. Because the district expended more than $750,000 in federal awards, you're required to receive a special audit over those expenditures, which we call a single audit. The best page to probably point out is a couple pages further on page 126 and summarizes the results from our audit. We audited 3 separate grants this year, the Title I grant, the ESSER funds, and the Head Start grant. And I'm happy to report that after our grants, we did not have any findings from compliance or internal control issues related with any of these grants. Moving on then, separate from the financial statements is our auditor's communication letter to those charged with governance. This letter covers key matters to keep all of you informed about significant matters relating to the audit. I won't go through every single point in our letters, but we'll hit some of the key points tonight. The first being towards the bottom of the first page, and the district implemented a new required accounting standard, GASB 96, which relates to subscription-based IT arrangements. This implementation resulted in a subscription liability and a subscription asset that roughly offset each other in the financials. Then towards the top of the second page, I'm happy to note that there were no unusual transactions that we noted as part of our audit this year. And then finally, towards the middle of the second page, discusses some of the estimates that are included in the financial statements. Not every number is a hard and fast number. Some of those have to be estimated. And these estimates include the net pension liability, the other post-employment benefits liabilities, claims liabilities for health insurance and workman's comp, and then allowance on doubtful accounts. Ultimately, the goal for our audit is to determine if the entity complied with laws and regulations, are internal controls operating effectively, and do the financial statements accurately reflect the books and records for the audit, or for the entity. And I'm happy to report that the answer to all of those questions is yes, based on our audit. So in conclusion today, I would like to also thank all of the district staff that we work with. An audit is a huge undertaking, and we appreciate all of their assistance and cooperation in completing the audit. So thank you for your time this evening, and I'm available for any questions that you may have for us.
Board, are there any questions? Mr. Bevan?
Do you have a song about the audit that you can sing?
I'm not that excited. If people stay awake, I'm lucky.
All right, Sienna, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
All right, our last presentation of the evening is going to be by Dr. Tim Reeves.
So I just wanted to take a quick second before we turn it over to Alicia Jackson to say thank you for an opportunity to talk to you a little bit about graduation requirements and some of the changes that you'll see before you. I know we had a board workshop a couple months ago where we spent quite a bit of time looking at this in depth, but there's also a lot of work that goes into making sure all this can happen. One of the first meetings that I attended in Learning Services was the day the email came out from the state that graduation requirements were going to change, and initially they were on slate to happen last year. And so you can imagine in a district our size, that kind of the panic that kind of ensues. Those things don't always happen really easily in a district of about 30,000 students and 5 high schools with about 2,000 students each. So Alicia has kind of managed this along with lots of Learning Services staff along the way, and has done it with patience and grace. And I would like to thank her and our Learning Services staff and our 5 high school principals for their patience as we've worked through this. You'll see some information before you tonight, many of which are ready to go, but some of which also we still need some answers from the State Department as well. So turn it over to you.
Thanks, Dr. Reeves. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
So this, as you all know, was a document that you saw a few months ago, and obviously it's been in board docs, so hopefully anybody interested has spent quality time with this chart here. So just a review, what has been our guiding, 3 really guiding pieces, I would say. And so obviously we have to follow the rules, right? So KSDE gives us these opportunities to change our requirements and kind of where we're at. Then number 2, let's take care of all of our kids, right? So follow the rules, take care of our kids. And as you know, we are blessed to live in a community with very diverse needs, very diverse interests, and very diverse paths after graduation. It is critical that we consider all of those walks of life and all of those needs moving forward as we adjust to the new expectations. And then number 3, take care of our people. We have wonderful, passionate, dedicated educators in our high schools who love what they teach. It is in their bones. It is what they breathe. And so taking care of them has been that third guiding factor for us as we've considered how to pivot moving forward. So starting on the left-hand side of those are our current KSDE requirements. And they are at 21. The new requirements are still at 21. So then moving to the right, those are our current Olathe Public Schools graduation requirements. And as you know, you can decide as a local board what changes or additions that we might make to that. Definitely can't take anything away, but we can always add. And again, I'm sure the last time we changed these, that deep consideration was made with our student need and our staff in that. So then moving to the next column, you'll see the adopted changes for the class of 2028. And those are our incoming freshman kiddos. So as we prepare for enrollment season, which it's that time, as we prepare for that enrollment season, we are making adjustments to prepare our incoming high schoolers and their families, because many of our families have already graduated students in our schools. So helping them understand what those changes look like and how we are going to do everything we can to meet their students' interests and needs, again, has been really important. So then finally, what you have before you in consideration tonight are our current or our proposed changes for our local requirements for graduation. To point out a few of those additions, you'll see language applications. That simple change in wording from the applied communications that you see in 2 columns over, many of those courses are covered in our world language courses. And you all know, you've been in our schools, that we have a very rich world language department and many opportunities for students. And also just the importance of understanding what different languages look like and how that fits into our portrait of a graduate, which many people in this room spent weeks and weeks on considering how to meet those needs. Another addition to the state graduation requirements, you will see down there in the 0.5 life studies. And that is still the practical and consumer studies courses, which many of us understand to be our family and consumer science courses, our business courses, our industrial technology courses. So again, amazing courses in life skills with outstanding educators teaching those courses that students will still have the opportunity to take and then also get credit for in regard to graduation. So those are the big changes for local. To point out a few of those state changes that you will see, we have a communications addition added from the state. And really this is meant to be what you would consider like speech, public speaking, what we're doing right now. Again, a life skill. Many of our courses cover those standards and processes for kids. So it's been a blessing and a gift to work with my fellow coordinators and building principals and teachers and counselors, really looking at how can we meet all student needs, meet the state requirements, and provide that rich life skill that is intended for that communications course. And then another new one that you might be wondering about is STEM, and that's second from the bottom there, the 1 credit. Many of those courses are our technology courses that we currently have, but then in addition, we are able to focus on advanced career and technical education courses, as well as additional science and math courses that students take in preparation for, again, whatever life after high school is going to be for them. You want to go up with that? So
do you want to pause for questions or go to the next two?
We have one more document that we're going to
This
pull
is,
up. We also have a presentation of you.
Professional light right now is maybe what we'll call this. Last one, perfect. Can usually count on me to keep things light. Okay, so the other document in board docs, which I know we all read before we go to bed at night, are the two additional changes that we are excited to provide potentially for our students moving forward. Many of us in this room look at other neighboring districts and what they are able to provide students, and then there's always the challenge of how can we continue to grow and get better and provide more opportunities. One of the ways that we are hoping to do that is to provide high school credit for two of our courses offered in 8th grade. Those two courses are Spanish 1 and French 1. Those courses are also offered in our high schools already. They are the same standards, same curriculum, same process, same everything. It's just which seat on the bus are you going to take that course in? Are you going to take it in the 8th grade seat, or are you going to take it in the 9th grade seat? And this again will give students the opportunity to do that in 8th grade. And then once they get into high school, that course will be transcribed onto their high school credit. And then the second piece that we're bringing before you tonight is to transition from a class rank system for students. So that is based on their weighted grade point average, transition to a cum laude system. Our two neighboring big districts are also recognizing students through this system. And I know there can be some big feelings with this change, right? And there's been a lot of pride in recognizing the outstanding academic excellence and achievements that our students have achieved. What I love about the opportunity to move to the cum laude system is we're going to be able to recognize even more students. We are going to be able to elevate and celebrate their successes that they have spent for dedicated years working toward. So we have still need to iron out those parameters of what those levels might look like, but we've had great discussion involved, again, district IRC people, building people, teachers, and so we have, thankfully, a few years to get that ironed out, as this will not start until our incoming freshmen reach graduation. So we will maintain the class rank system for our current freshmen through juniors, and cum laude will start with our incoming freshmen. So that's what we have. Questions?
Board, any questions? Dr. Yurkovich?
This really isn't a question, but I commend you for the work that you've done, because it is a challenge when the state says this is what we're going to do now. And I know the impact on the program planning guy as well. But I also appreciate the switch to cum laude. Because, and I've shared this with you, Ms. Jackson, but I've seen in other districts when that change has been made, the motivation of so many students to challenge themselves, to work harder and to achieve higher. So best of luck with making those criteria decisions, but thank you for your work.
Yeah.
Board, any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 5.01. Mrs. Steele.
At each regular meeting, the Board of Education reserves limited time for individuals to address the board. We ask that your comments be germane, that is, related to the business this board effectuates. Non-compliance may result in the president interrupting to redirect. We request that individual speakers limit their comments to 3 minutes. The clerk will monitor the time and notify the speaker when the 3-minute time limit has expired. Please direct your comments to the board and not the guests or staff. If a response is appropriate, the president will respond or refer to another individual. In an effort to respect privacy, we ask that speakers refrain from discussing personal complaints involving individual staff members or students. Audience disruption is also not permitted. Those speaking are advised that public comments are videotape recorded for broadcast on the district's Educational Access Channel and audio tape recorded as a matter of public record. Individuals addressing the board should come to the podium at the front of the room and state your name, city and state, and relationship to the district.
Mitch Cloud.
Hi, I am Mitch Cloud. I'm the school counselor at Fairview Elementary, which is the best school in the district. I just want to say thank you to all the board members for doing everything that you do. I was under the impression that a board position came with like a 6-figure salary and like this is like your full-time job and stuff, but somebody corrected me and told me that this was all volunteer and you guys just do this for the good, out of the goodness of your heart. So I'm really thankful for that. I can't imagine how hard this can be sometimes. So thank you so much. At Fairview Elementary, we're really fortunate to have a lot of community partners and just some wonderful support that supports our students and our families. I could tell you like a million really cool stories about our community partners and how they support our families and our students. But I wanted to talk about one person in particular, one volunteer that comes to our school and has been coming over the past several years. This volunteer has been an integral part and has quickly become part of our Fairview family. He's been coming faithfully and mentoring a few students at our school, and he is just so fun with them. They love him. They absolutely adore him. And he gives a listening ear to our students that might just need a little extra TLC sometimes. Our students adore him, and he has genuinely made a huge difference in the lives of our students, and we can't thank him enough. We are eternally grateful for that. That means so much to us. This volunteer does a lot for our school, but also does a lot of other things around the district. I've seen him give a lot of time and energy and emotions and even financial support to make our school district the best that it can possibly be. I think the thing that stands out most in my mind is when I got called to help support at Olathe East. This volunteer showed up shortly after I did and just quietly passed out water to students that were really scared. And I'll keep that in my heart and my mind forever. So he and his family do a lot for our district. I think he doesn't really talk a lot about it. He and his family support our district in really quiet but very generous ways. He's a model of what it looks like to be humble and kind and giving. He truly is a servant leader and a model that I aspire to be like someday. So from my heart and our heart and our students, I just wanted to say thank you. And thank you for everything that you've done. Thank you, Mr. Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Cloud. Meg Schimmels.
Hi, good evening. I'm Meg Schimmels. I was here last month and had an interesting experience talking about school libraries. Tonight I'm going to talk about our board policy, which is BCBI. And I appreciate that Mrs. Steele mentioned that commenters should state their name and the city, etc. I do live in the Olathe district. I'm a retired Olathe educator and have 2 granddaughters who are in the district as well. On the board policy for BCBI, I would like to codify I'd like the board to codify what Mrs. Steele had just said about stating your name. In the board policy, it says prior to their public comments, speakers may be asked to provide their name and the city and state where they live. I would suggest that we change that wording to, at the beginning of their public comments, speakers shall be required to provide their name, the city and state where they live. Not their address or anything. I think it'd I think good for the public when they are watching this on streaming live or later to know that our speakers are in the Olathe district and not necessarily in Kansas City, Missouri, or Leawood. So I appreciate that, your consideration for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Allison Hoagland.
Hi there. I'm Allison Hoagland. I graduated from Olathe North High School. My grandparents and my father graduated from Olathe High School. My daughter graduated from Northwest, and my grandkids are in the Olathe schools now. So I was born here, lived here almost my whole life, and Olathe District Schools have done my family well. Appreciate it. I'm really just here to say thank you. I want to thank Joe and Shannon for your service. I want to thank the district for always being among the best in the state. I want to thank you on the school board for watching over the district, making decisions in the best interest of our teachers and students, and maintaining our good standing. Thank you to the teachers that spend every day teaching our children and my grandchildren. Thank you a lot. And helping all of the children understand the difference between what's right and wrong in and out of the classroom. I want to thank the librarians. There are students where the library is their safe place. And the librarians have taken a lot of punches lately, so I appreciate the fact that you're still in there fighting the good fight for our kids. Thank you to all the paras and other support staff that enable education for all of our students. Thank you, Dr. Yeager, for joining the Special Education Task Force. We know how important special education is, and I'm glad you're such a great advocate for them. And that is all. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Rebecca Knapp. Rebecca Knapp. Dawn Brumbley. Dawn Brumbley. Kate Gimbalo. I have some good help.
Hi, my name is Kate Gimbalo. I live in Olathe. I have a son who's at ONW. Moved here for the Olathe school system 16 years ago when Jack was born in Florida. I just wanted to take a moment to thank the sitting members of the school board for your service. You know, after this last election cycle, it's clear how strongly our community has spoken against radicalism and extremism by groups like Moms for Liberty and their followers who targeted this body with their implied influence, but they failed. I'm so sorry that so many of you had to suffer the slings and arrows of that righteous indignation, and I thank you for handling it so professionally. The clear goals of those campaigns are to have schools that discourage freedom of thought, allow our kids in the LGBTQIA plus community to be endangered by intolerance, undermine the expertise of our exceptional educators, and they work to erase the history of huge segments of our community. So knowing that one of the primary functions of education is to teach students to think for themselves, I appreciate your continued dedication to protecting all students' rights so they can continue to have this freedom of thought and to be protected. And tonight, I deeply want to thank the two of you, Mr. Wycliffe, Mr. Beveridge, for your years of work for our schools and our kids. And now it would be Pollyanna to expect that I have agreed with or will continue to agree with every decision that this board makes. I want you to know that I recognize the hard work and the dedication that it takes to serve. And I know that our new board members, Claire Reagan and Will Babbitt, will be equally protective of our schools. You see, representation matters. Students being seen and celebrated matters. So I thank you for continuing to fight for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Rose. Stephen Rose. Tara Wiggins. Tara Wiggins. Tara Roush. Tara Roush. Megan Briggs.
Good evening, Board of Education. My name is Megan Bricks, and I'm an extremely proud elementary music teacher. I live in DeSoto, Kansas, and I work here in Olathe. Tonight, you got to see my why. You got to see why I work so hard. You got to see why I wake up early and spend late nights at my building. You got to see my students who mean the world to me. My students are my why. I'm an elementary music teacher because I get to make music and be creative with my students. I get to teach my students how to sing. I get to dance and move around the room. I get to play instruments, and I get to think outside of the box alongside my students. They give me the inspiration to continue learning and growing as an educator because I want to be the best possible music teacher I can for them. They deserve it. That is why I'm here tonight to speak with you. I personally have concerns about how changing the elementary schedule to 8:55 to 3:55 will impact my students. Elementary students can't drive themselves to school. They can't sit at home alone by themselves for an hour. They can't work best when their day starts off not on the right foot. One of my biggest concerns is the safety of my students. There are buildings across our district, including mine, where students are already being dropped off at the front doors to wait outside unsupervised. If we were to push the time back, I'm worried about the number of unattended students. I'm worried that there won't be enough morning care spots for parents who work and need to arrive on time for their jobs. I'm worried for our teachers at the middle and high school levels who have elementary students and will have to find a way for their child to get to school at a much later time than currently. I'm worried about students not making it to their bus stop on time because no one is at their home to ensure they get outside, or that students will be outside waiting at the bus stop due to there being no one at their home to watch them. My job, first and foremost, is to keep my students safe and ensure that their basic and fundamental needs are being met. I know that I am not the only one who shares these concerns. I know that these concerns were brought up at the start and time committee meetings, but what are we going to do about these things? How are we going to ensure the safety of all students if there aren't enough spots in the morning JCPRD programs? How are working parents going to be able to get to work on time and ensure that their child is able to make it to school safely? My students are my reason for coming to school each day, and their safety and well-being is of the utmost importance to me. It comes before the teaching music aspect of my job. I hope that before you vote tonight, you will consider how this change will impact our youngest students. I know that no solution will be perfect, but we must find a solution that ensures the safety of all children in the Olathe Public Schools. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak and share my thoughts with you tonight, and I'm glad you got to see my reason, my why, my students. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca Knapp. Dawn Brumley. Stephen Rose. Tara Wiggins. Tara Roush. All right, that concludes our public comments. Moving on to agenda item 6.01. Executive session, we need 20 minutes for the first one.
I move that the board go into executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel pursuant to non-elected personnel exception under COMA, and that the board return to the regular meeting at
7:15 p.m. in this room.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Beveridge and a second by Mr. Wycliffe.
Mrs. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Wycliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Boyd?
Yes.
Mr. Beveridge?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhn?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
Dr. Yurkovich?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Nice job.
I think we are upstairs.
This is good. I will keep it for you. Yes, thank you.
It's kind of nice. But you can use it.
Moving on to the action consent agenda. All right, board, I need you guys to work with me here. Well, there's a bunch of stuff here, so I kind of need to know who has questions on what we can lump together, and what we need to pull out. Dr. Yurkovich?
Mr. Boyd, I have some questions on 7.06.
All right.
Please.
Anything before 7.06? All right. Can I get a motion for 7.01 through 7.05?
Move to approve 7.01 through 7.05 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Wycliffe.
Sorry, Boyd.
And a second by Mr. Kuhn.
Mr. Wycliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Boyd?
Yes.
Mr. Beveridge?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhn?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
Dr. Yurkovich?
Yes.
Mrs. Steele?
Yes.
All right, motion carries 7-0. All right, 7.06, Dr. Yurkovich?
Yes, I first of all would like to thank those in the Olathe community for their participation in this very challenging decision for change. And I actually have several questions, and Mr. McMullen, if I could put you on the hot seat. The questions that I have are really related to information, emails, people in the community who've reached out to me, and I believe the answers are in the presentations that are posted and that you have provided, but I think it might be beneficial to just clarify some of those. Sure. So my first question, and actually there are kind of two tied together, is related to the before school care for elementary age students, which we heard again tonight during public comments. But the questions are, have there been discussions with current providers regarding what this might look like if elementary schools don't start until 8:55, specifically availability of services, supervision, students dropped off, as was talked about. And then connected to that, I know that Kansas City, Kansas, Blue Valley, and Blue Springs all have later start for their elementary schools. So have we had any conversation, or do we know how they address that issue?
Absolutely. So yes, to answer your question, Johnson County Parks and Rec is our before and after school care partner, and we started these conversations with them last spring, and then actually included them this fall, even to the point where they attended our study group meeting and visit with our elementary study group subgroup and worked with them on what that looked like, whether we went with option A and option B and the challenges of each one and what that looked like. So since then, and since the recommendation, have had ongoing conversations. Both Dr. Smith and Dr. Harrison are in, I believe, weekly contact with JCPRD on this topic. They certainly are looking at ways to increase their staffing levels, to be able to support more families. On our end, we certainly have looked at other options that other districts are doing. I know Shawnee Mission, for example, uses multiple providers, outside providers, so to better serve more students in more schools. Specifically to your question about other districts and what they're doing, I can speak to KCK. I know that they actually employ many of their own staff, classified and certified, that they offer, if it's certified, stipends before school for those that choose to do it, nothing required by any means. And then for classified staff as well, that maybe a 7-hour classified staff member would like to work 7.5 hours a day so they can pick up some time, specifically in the morning, which is where the greater need is.
Okay. My second question is, if service is reinstated to the model prior to this year, specifically for pay riders and 21st Century Academies, how many students will regain bus services?
Yeah, that'll be just over 3,500. pay ride students. On the 21st Century Academy, as we moved to a pay ride system this year, we actually did not lose many riders. We lost many that signed up, which technically were like ghost riders that kind of would sign up as a backup because it was free. But we worked with any families that needed assistance this year, and frankly, if you look at our 21st Century Academy enrollment, it's higher this year than it was a year ago. Even with that changed, moving to pay ride specifically for the 21st Century Academies. But on the pay ride side, that's really where we've felt the pain in our schools, and that will affect 3,500 secondary students.
Okay. Could you again clarify how many additional drivers will be needed for the recommended proposal A, and if there is a concern that we'll be able to meet that need?
Yeah, so the beauty of the three-tier system is it requires fewer drivers. So our model, if you looked at the services we provided last year, required 182 drivers. And as we continue to run our routing, we were looking at around 152 for option A. That number has actually dropped since, as we have calculated in the change to the secondary bus stops, moving those up to 0.5 miles from a child's home within their subdivision, so not crossing any type of major road, but it used to be 0.25, and so bumping that at the secondary level to up to 0.5 within a subdivision is going to get that number below 150 for drivers needed.
There was a question about student input, what that purpose was, how it was determined to gather their thoughts, and what value did that actually provide?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good question. So, we really felt it was important, especially at the secondary level, to get input from our students. We asked, so we could get feedback that we felt was valid and informed. We wanted our principals or assistant principals to sit down with kids and really explain the what and the why, because we have some students who are living the pain of not having pay ride bus service every day, and we have other students that have no clue that we are even in a crisis with transportation. And so we asked the principals to meet with at least 50 students at each school, so at least 2 classes, and get input from the kids. They took them through a PowerPoint, talked about the what and the why, and then had a QR code, and the kids were able to answer questions, give feedback, and back then that was before we had released A and B, so we were just given generic times in terms of a generic 3-tier schedule and which times the students like. And as you saw on the data there, the students certainly preferred the earlier start times at the secondary level.
Okay. Could you clarify the field trip data? I believe it was 42% of the field trips listed were scheduled prior to school starting with the current schedule. So what will that look like once elementary starts even later, and the impact of the availability?
Sure, and that 42% was actually on the elementary trips specifically, but yes, we the new bell schedule benefits field trips, and especially those early mornings, because really that's where a lot of your single routes, which are many of your high school routes, are the singles because of the length of them. Then they turn around and run your trips. So with a 7:40 start time at high school, we would be looking at somewhere between a 7:20 and 7:30 drop time, which would then have that many buses available for field and activity trips. So it actually helps our field trip situation in this new model.
Okay. And then the last question is, I know that once a decision is made, there will be conversation with ONEA, and they'll participate in discussions related to teacher contract time. But could you share again how the change in the bell schedule might affect the contract times at each level?
And I actually, can you pull this up? I've asked them to install the PowerPoint from last meeting because I thought the visual might help.
Okay, thank you.
Can everybody see that on screens? So this shows kind of our current bell schedule and the current, and then the option A, the proposed schedule, and then the contract day and what that looks like. So you'll see, let's take high school, for example. Currently, they're 8 to 3. Their contract day is 7:30 to 3:30. In option A, the academic schedule would be 7:40 to 2:40. And again, their contract day certainly would cover that at 7:30 to 3:30. Certainly, there'll be discussions whether that needs to change a little bit. I'll give you an example. Shawnee Mission has that exact same high school bell schedule, and their high school contract day is 7:20 to 3:20. They get teachers in just a little bit earlier, helps with, certainly on the special services side, with kids getting off the bus and those things, but a change is not required, but certainly would be open for input from them. At the middle level, you'll see that their current contract day is 7:30 to 3:30. In option A, the bell schedule is 8:20 to 3:20. Certainly fits within that contract day, so no change is required, but again, the bargaining unit may decide they want to shift that 10 minutes one direction or another. And then at the elementary level, again, you'll see their current contract day is 8 to 4. The new recommended bell schedule has them 8:55 to 3:55. So certainly we would recommend a contract day change there, but it would be pretty minimal. You're looking at potentially a 10-minute change if 8:10 to 4:10, as you'll see on the bottom right there, was adopted. But again, that'll be up to the bargaining unit.
So that elementary, I know one of the concerns that I've seen repeatedly is dismissal time really takes typically more than 15 minutes at the elementary, if you've ever sat in the car line.
I've had that pleasure, yes.
On the rain days. So with conversation with ONEA, that could even shift a little
absolutely.
bit more.
And I would note too, I think ONEA has a pretty good plan for soliciting input from the bargaining unit that will happen very quickly in terms of a time frame, depending the board's decision tonight, where they, want to get very quick information from the bargaining unit in terms of what those contract adjustments may look like in the best case scenario for our certified licensed staff.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Board, any other questions? Mr. Carl?
So just double checking. I was looking at A and B, and if I'm reading it correctly, the field trip availability is identical. It says 750 to 210. Is that correct? Am I reading those slides correctly?
Yes.
Okay. Second thing I just want to add a comment. We didn't vote for it in April because I made a point, and I think a lot of folks agreed, that we just didn't have the depth of engagement and input. And you made a plan, and in the fall, you engaged at all 3 levels, exponential emails, exponential surveys. You accomplished what I had asked to do, and I wanted to say thank you, because that's important, right? And while folks are still emailing, and I want to make sure that, and there's mostly teachers this week, we hear you, we see you, we're hoping to make these decisions not in a vacuum, right? Can you talk a little bit to the cascade of other decisions that until we get this one done? Some of the conversations, the emails we received said, can you get them to put it off another month? Well, can you talk a little bit about why that would not be good for the district and the cascade of other types of decisions that have to be made going forward? Could you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's just a lot of variables that will need to be adjusted once we adopt a new bell schedule. And some of those include obviously the contract day on the teacher side. Both elementary and middle are looking at an alignment of instructional minutes to equal the high school, so they're each reducing their instructional day by 20 minutes. So at middle school specifically, when you're looking at a bell schedule, certainly there will need to be study there on what a new bell schedule looks like that is 20 minutes shorter. And then at the elementary level, just what's their day look like as they look at, I'm going to get way out of my orbit here real quick talking about elementary schedules, but with specials and the amount of time for all their curriculum and instructional minutes, what's that look like with 20 minutes fewer? So there's work to be done there, certainly on the before and after school care side. High school, I know Mr. Albers, they'll continue to have discussions on whether we continue with late start or not, or what's that look like at high school. That's just the tip of the iceberg, but there's many, many variables that we have to look at.
And I may add too that, a lot of our conversations to this point, even if it's band practice or, before and after school care, even conversations with assisted transportation, you name it. Most of our conversations at this point have been theoretical. If this schedule changed to this, what would this look like? And so, should the board take action on this tonight, it gives us the opportunity to move out of this theoretical space to the space of let's start making concrete plans to move forward. And, to your question about time, I think that's important because one of the reasons, why we paused last year and came back to it this year is we recognize we also need to give our community time to prepare and be ready for this change. And, the more time we can give our community to do that, the better. We're going to try our very hardest to accommodate as much as we can before and after school care and some of the challenges that we know this will create. But at the end of the day, we probably won't be able to accommodate all those challenges that come forward. So we feel like it's important for our community to have as much notice as possible that this change is coming. That will also allow, it's not child care providers that work with us, but child care providers within our community to staff up and be prepared and those sorts of things as well. So there's a lot of things that will move from that theoretical spot to let's take action and go pending the board's decision tonight.
And then, of course, with open enrollment, which is another object we're going to be voting on, how can you publish that? How can you put that out without knowing the times and schedules and who can come? And I think one of the conversations you and I had through email was staffing, right? It was like, again, looking at surveying our own teams. Where are your kids? Which schools do they need to be in? What age are they in? So that we can prioritize. And I would never say that we wouldn't care about everybody, but when we're talking about staff and their kids, we need to know where they're going, that they're safe so that they can focus on their job. And we need to give them that time to do that, right?
Agreed. Thank you.
I just wanted to make sure, because I was hard on that back last spring. We didn't have enough. And you've done a lot of work and your team's done a lot of work. And, there's no perfect, but we got to move forward. The rest of the world is pretty much on a 3-tier. So,
board, any other questions? Thank you, sir. Board, are there any other questions of 7.07 through 7.15?
Mr. President, I do not have a question, just a reminder to our community, a statement that our open enrollment policy that the district leadership has worked on is a result of legislative action, House Bill 2567. So it isn't, I just want to make sure people understand, I did get a couple of emails wondering why we were looking to make such a wholesale change, and rest assured we were not, but some good things might come from it. So the legislature has promised more bills that will affect local school districts. So when they're back in session, starting in January, we can make sure as a community we're paying attention to what's going on in Topeka and then what the trickle down of that will be.
All right. Mr. Wycliffe?
Oh, I was just going to move to approve 7.07 through 7.15 as presented.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
point of order. Point of order. Should we not include 7.06 as well?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
6
I'm
to
sorry.
15.
7.06 through 7.15 is presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Wycliffe and a second by Mrs. Steele.
Mr. Wycliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Boyd?
Yes.
Mr. Beveridge?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhn?
No.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
Dr. Yurkovich?
Yes.
Mrs. Steele?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-1. Moving on to action dates, contracts, and agreements. Board, any questions on any of those items?
I did. Let me pull out if I could, Mr.
Yep, go ahead, take your time. Actually, you know what, guys? I need to, we need to take one of these separate because I'm going to recuse myself on 8.01. I have a personal relationship with someone that's affiliated with this company, so. Mrs. Steele, the floor is yours for 8.01.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve 8.01, and then we'll move into discussion if there is any.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Beveridge, second by Mr. Wycliffe. Any discussion? Okay, Barb.
Mr. Wycliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Beveridge?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhn?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
Dr. Yurkovich?
Yes.
Mrs. Steele?
Yes.
Mrs. Steele? Yeah.
I don't have a question, just a quick comment that I wanted to draw attention to Travis Palangi and his team. And we had the bid summary on the abatement package come in under our budgeted amount. And in a time when everything is more expensive from, product to labor, that is duly noted. Coming in under budget is always a celebration. So thank you to you and your team for the hard work on that huge project.
Board, any other comments or questions on 8.02 through 8.12? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve 8.02 through 8.12.
Second.
We have a motion by Mrs. Steele and a second by Dr. Yurkovich.
Mr. Wycliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Boyd?
Yes.
Mr. Beveridge?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhn?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
Dr. Yurkovich?
Yes.
Mrs. Steele?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. Moving to action other 9.01. This is the audit that we just heard from earlier. I want to turn a motion on it. Any questions or questions or comments on 9.01?
Mr. President, if I might?
Yeah.
I just want to thank Mr. Hutchison, Cassie, team. That is a lot of work, and to get an unqualified opinion is fantastic. So continued good work, and thank you for all that you do on that, because it's not easy.
Ditto, Mr. President, and just want to say to Cassie and Mr. Hutchison, to Cassie, apparently to Cassie, and the whole team. I, some time ago, knew we had received awards in our financial department, and so, and just recognitions, and so I had asked John to kind of share that with me, and I think it's worth saying publicly so that our community can know what this department has achieved. The finance department, the district, has received the Association of School Business Officials International's Meritorious Budget Award for the past 26 years. The district has received the Association of School Business Official International Certificate of Excellence in Finance Reporting for the past 16 years. Again tonight, but also unqualified audit opinions, which is the highest result, a AA bond rating from Moody's, as well as Standard & Poor's second highest available. Mr. Hutchinson is a CPA, as well as a certified school finance and operations officer. Cassie Osborne is a CPA, and we have others in the department with 4-year accounting degrees and many years of experience. In addition, Jana Raper is our budget manager and is also a CPA. This department is led by incredibly qualified people that are out there making a good name for Olathe Public Schools. So thank you for your work on this audit and otherwise.
Board, any other discussion, comments, or questions?
I'd move to approve 9.01 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Wycliffe and a second by Mr. Kuhn.
Mr. Beveridge?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhn?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
Dr. Yurkovich?
Yes.
Mrs. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Wycliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Boyd?
Yes. Motion carries 7-0. All right, moving on to 9.02. Mr. Connell.
Mr. Boyd, I'd like to start comments if I could. Would that be all right with you?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Floor is yours, sir.
I just want to make sure. So I've got a quick comment. I wrote it down to make sure that I was quick at it. So a fellow board member recently said that they, quote, want the board to work together and to listen to and hear each other and treat each other with respect. Very aspirational statement for the future indeed. This is a very unique time for the Olathe Board of Education. In a matter of weeks, we will begin a new year and the BOE will have completed a nearly complete changeover in its members in less than 2 years. In the January board meeting, Brad Boyd will preside as board president, with he being the only one of the 7 of us with more than 2 years of board experience. Truthfully, that's not entirely a bad thing. It's an opportunity. This entire community, the school system, and the Board of Education have all gone through big changes and upheaval in the last several years. Brad and this board, with 2 brand new board members coming in January, deserve a clean slate. That means actively choosing together to leave the past in the past. In order to get to that, the board working together and listening to each other and actually hearing each other and treating each other with respect, then the 7 of us here, each of us representing both the past and the future, have a choice right now and a chance to do better. I suggest that this particular agenda item and issue are a vestige of the past. Will you hold on to the past or give the new board with Claire Reagan and Will Babbitt joining a fresh, clean slate and a new start? I suggest that all of us need to do the right thing for Brad Boyd, for Julie Steele, for the new board members, for the school district and all of our constituents going into 2024. It is legacy time. Leave the past, focus on the future. Do what's right. We all know what's right. The time is now, and I hope that we all choose the future over the past. Good luck to each of us.
Dr. Yurkovich?
Yes. So this action item is a discussion regarding the censure of Mr. Connell. I'm going to start by clearly defining censure, which is a formal public group condemnation of an individual, often a group member, whose actions run counter to the group's acceptable standards for individual behavior. So when the request has been made multiple times that the censure be removed, that's not possible because a censure is a statement. The statement was made May 16th, and that statement will remain. However, the conversation extends from that in that, along with that censure, restrictions have been placed on Mr. Connell. During a conversation he and I had this week, Mr. Connell owned the behavior from May 4th and apologized for it. And I appreciated that because as I shared with him, I had not heard him make that statement. Now, he said that he has, but it's been mixed in with other conversation and perhaps I had missed it. He also shared an understanding of the purpose for the censure and the restrictions that were associated with it, prohibiting his participation on committees and opportunities to hold a board leadership position. In that conversation, he likened the restrictions to a timeout, a response to behaviors those of us who have children have likely used many times. Per the amendment to the October 5th resolution, tonight we as a board are to discuss the possibility of reinstating one of the conditions currently being withheld associated with the censure and to establish a future date for further review and discussion related to reinstating the additional condition. A decision to reinstate was to be dependent upon a consistent adherence by Mr. Connell to all elements of Board Policy BH, School Board Member Ethics. Events since October 5th do not really provide an accurate reflection of adherence to elements in Policy BH, given that Mr. Connell was not in person at the November board meeting due to an emergency with a friend. He stated tonight in his comments, and I stated in my October comments, and we agree, it is important for the Olathe School District to have leadership from a board that is fully functioning. And as we welcome new members in January, I believe it provides the board an opportunity to reset. To do so, we as board members should look forward, strive to collaborate, listen to each other, truly hear each other, and above all, show respect for one another. I would add that a demonstration of respectful behavior doesn't end when we leave the meeting room each month. To be fully collaborative and to work as a board, the respect should be demonstrated each day in between the meetings, in our personal interactions, comments to others, and on social media. If there is a disagreement on a topic, we should discuss it civilly during our meetings. Based on the conversation Mr. Connell and I had this week and his statement this evening, I would be willing to lift the restriction related to his participation on committees and allow him to serve again beginning in January 2024. It is my belief this will contribute to a healthier working relationship between board members. It is my expectation that Mr. Connell will be true to his word in striving to leave history behind and move forward as a collaborative and respectful member of the board. I would also suggest, as part of that October 5th resolution, that to meet the conditions of that resolution during the April 4th, 2024 meeting, we revisit the second restriction related to holding a leadership position. Thank you.
Board, any other comments? Mrs. Steele?
I just have 3 statements from our policy BH that I think are worth reading. And thank you, Dr. Yurkovich, for your recommendation. Appreciate that and your words. 3 statements that I think are worth reminding all of us on the board. Will be respectful of the will of the board, both in the boardroom and in the community once a decision is made. Support the employment of those persons best qualified to serve as district staff. Take no private action that will compromise the board or the administration. Those 3 statements come to mind, and I would hope, Dr. Yurkovich, I'd like to join you in trusting that the conversation that you were afforded with Mr. Connell, where he stated that he would like to move forward differently maybe than what has occurred in the past. I would like to also trust that, and I will yield the floor.
Board, any other comments or statements? Okay. I also spent some time this week talking to Mr. Connell. He and I had an opportunity to unpack some things that maybe had been lingering for a period of time. So that was a worthwhile endeavor. I'll be honest, you know, I'm really struggling. I do believe that having this issue not being held over our head, so to speak, is in the best interest of our board. So by extension, if it's in the best interest of our board, you know, maybe it's in the best interest of our district. So I will also yield the floor. Is there a motion in relation to 9.02? Mr. Whitman? Maybe not.
Yeah. I would
I'm just
move,
get-
oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to ask a question, to put it out there as something to consider. This is my last meeting, right? As we move forward, do we owe new board members an opportunity to chime in? That's all I'll say.
That's a good question. I would just say, from my perspective, I would like for our new board members to kind of have a clean slate and a clean start. I don't think it would be fair to, although, I know they have been watching and are fully aware of what's going on. I don't think it would be fair to have them to come on board in January and have this be one of the first votes that they would have to take. But that's just my perspective on it. Any other comments? Mrs. Steele?
I was in that position when I took seat in January of 2022, and one of my first votes was a very difficult vote, and it made it a very painful, difficult start to my tenure on the board. So I too would rather protect and two new board members and allow them to come on board with progress being made in this fashion that they don't have to weigh in on in January.
Board, any other comments? Dr. Yurkovich?
I would make a motion that we lift the restriction related to Mr. Connell's participation on committees and allow him to begin serving again in January of 2024, or when committees are reassigned with Mr. Wycliffe and Mr. Beveridge leaving, and that during the April 4th, 2024 meeting, we revisit the second restriction related to holding leadership position.
Second.
We have a motion by Dr. Yurkovich and a second by Mr. Kuhn. Barb, you need that repeated?
Do you have that
Do you have that
written
written?
down, Dr. Yurkovich?
I will. I'll edit. Yeah.
All right. While she's editing, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Any further discussion? This is a question, Dr. Yeager. Are there any committee meetings between now and January?
Yes.
There are,
Yes.
3.
but our current board members would be represented on
Okay.
those committees.
Okay. Okay. Mrs. Steele?
I have one last comment that I want to make sure that our community understands and hears. As Dr. Yurkovich mentioned, the censure is a public statement about another board member. In no way has this board taken Mr. Connell's vote on issues or his voice. And that was not the goal of the censure, nor would that be something we could even carry out. So the censure, that was not something that occurred during this censure, and I received a few emails this week that were very concerned about how we could have done that, and we did not. So I want to make sure we're understanding what a censure is as we go forward to vote. That's all. Thank you.
Dr. Yurkovich, whenever you're ready, you can read that back.
Four
So,
four
Barb,
more words.
You're good. Just letting you know the floor is yours, ma'am, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. I move that we lift the restriction related to Mr. Connell's participation on committees and allow him to serve again beginning January 2024 as memberships are updated. Additionally, during the April 4th, 2024 meeting, we will revisit the second restriction related to holding leadership position.
Question?
Mr. Connell.
It seems technically this is an edit or amendment to the one that's on there. Is that what you're, I mean, because that's what happened in October. There was an amendment and edit, and this is an adjustment to that. So this would be present in April? Is that what you see? Is that where you're, I mean, I'm just checking on.
Oh, I see what you're
process and
saying.
and process.
So I see this as a clean motion tonight.
Okay, clean, okay.
But on the April 4th agenda item, we would revisit that second part of it.
Because technically it could be both at the same time. You can add that to this as an edit. It can be voted on that moves forward, and it comes up again in April with your letter. So I just want to ask. But this is a clean motion, clean item.
Yeah, I think keeping it clean would be the best route for us to go. So we have a motion on the floor and a second.
Second.
Any other discussion? Barb, it's your turn.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Kuhn?
Yes.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
Dr. Yurkovich?
Yes.
Mrs. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Wycliffe?
No.
Mr. Boyd?
Yes.
Mr. Beveridge?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-1. All right, we have, looks like a lot of future action items. So if you have questions, get those to Dr. Yeager so he can pass those on to staff. There's 3 information written reports. I always want to highlight the bond information report. And this information is also updated and published out to our website. Moving on to 12.01, board, any topics for discussion?
Joe, I'm looking at you.
So I'm going to make one comment. I don't know if he's watching or not, but I would like to thank my son for never changing. Every meeting for the last 8 years, he'll text me during the board meeting, can I get DoorDash? Can I get a ride somewhere? My wife's watching the meeting with him. I don't know why he does that, but tonight he texted while I was giving my speech, where's everyone at tonight? Thank you for never changing, Ken.
Dr. Yurkovich?
I just have a brief comment. I really believe that this evening, the theme of this meeting has been one that really focused on leadership. Obviously, with the recognition of Mr. Beveridge and Mr. Wycliffe, and I personally want to thank you for your passion and your commitment. I've seen it up close the last few months, but I did sit in my living room and watch it a number of times over the last few years as well. Our Forest View students, how exciting is that from the time they start school, they have that opportunity to find that leader in themselves. And you could see that tonight, and some of them you just wonder what they will be doing 8-10 years from now. Ms. Jackson and Learning Services with the graduation requirements, I kind of made light of that, but that is huge. And if you have never looked at that program planning guide, you need to take a look at that. And now they're managing it with different requirements for our incoming freshmen as to all of those that have started high school. Dr. McMillan's leadership through this Bell tier change. He and I had the opportunity to go through some big changes with the grade level configuration, and we've had conversations and likened it. But kudos, and our finance team as well, and our board tonight as we finish this tenure of a board, and welcome Will and Claire next month. I think all of those have been demonstrations of leadership, and it's who Olathe has always been and will continue to be.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Connell?
So, life is interesting. So, after mentoring with the 6th grade child that I mentor at the middle school earlier today, I wrote a document, and that's what's here. But then I decided I was going to write something else, and I left it at home. That was smarter, shorter, and this was 6 minutes, and I'm not going to read it all. The other one was about 2.5 minutes. But the conversation that I had with him was really, really impactful for both of us. See, when you're a 6th grader in middle school these days, life is a lot harder when he's talking about what's going on in his family, missing parents that aren't alive anymore. Being new to a school as a 6th grader when you're a little guy, right? He's experienced a lot of stresses differently than what we had when we were 6th graders or stuff. But then we had a conversation about taking responsibility for putting himself in better situations. Who's he hanging out with? Are they picking on other people? Are they supporting him? Are they encouraging him? Are they lifting him up? Are they making it harder for him to be successful? And we had a chance to talk about something. I remember when we were talking, I remember my own parents, right? Now, I'm in my 44th mailing address in my life. That's a lot of moving. 11 schools in 14 years if you had kindergarten to college. 4 high schools in 4 years. If there's anybody that understands what it feels to be new on the outside, different, that was us. My parents had good advice for us, though. There's a couple different things, and this is what I share with him, and I probably can't remember everything. But one of the first things is that I shared with my mentee is get to know yourself. Care about yourself. Love yourself. When you do that first, others will see what they want in a friend or a brother. And then, of course, my mom was quick. But you can reinvent yourself anytime you want if there's something you don't like. Yeah, back in 10th grade, I combed over my hair and I looked exactly 100% like Napoleon Dynamite. But we moved again, and my mom said, "You've been complaining, you can change it." So I did. Cut it short, let it grow out curly, and all of a sudden in the early 80s, I looked like the greatest American hero. It was the funniest thing. Everybody was into curly hair and Baywatch, so it was like, woo! That helped. Schools give you an opportunity to reinvent yourself. That same year, I was like, I'm still on the outside. My mom said, well, go do something at school. And I was like, well, I'll go try out for the play. Actually, I didn't want to be in the play, the spring musical. I just said, I'll go build sets because there's 100 kids there. I'm bound to run into somebody I have something in common with. But in order to be in the crew, you had to audition. And I didn't sing. I ended up with the lead in the musical. Strange things happen when good teachers find kids and their parents sometimes pushing them out of the nest. But there was also a time in that time, a period that I share with my friend, that we make choices of who we're around. You see, when you're brand new, the most accommodating, the most friendly kids are the kids doing drugs. If you got $20 and got marijuana, you were in the crowd. And unfortunately, my brother went down that path. 2 kids, a year apart, in the same schools, same lived experiences, all of a sudden going 2 different paths. And when I was sharing that, I remembered I was in the gifted and talented program because a fourth grade teacher said, hey, you got to do this. And I remember there was I don't have it here, but it was from Robert Frost. Something about two roads diverge in a yellow wood. And then somewhere in the end of that thing, because I can't remember it all, but we had to memorize it back then, was that I chose a path less traveled. And I was better for it. And I reminded this little boy, he gets choices. And then I remember what I told my kids when they were growing up. The choices define us. You can walk away. See, some of my kids had friends who turned the wrong direction. And it hurt when they said, too much drama, can't have you in my life anymore. Hard to do. But I'm trying to encourage him to say, these kids who are hurting you and putting you in a situation to affect your grades, you can choose. And the last thing I shared with them is my parents said, know when to leave. If you've got a bad job and you can't do it or won't do it, leave. If you're in a bad relationship and they won't work with you, get out. If you're around bad folks and that's not who you want to be, going back to point number one, about caring for yourself and what's right and what's best and those around you, make choices. So it's my time to choose. I'm at a crossroads again. After a lot of prayer, effective January 7th, I hereby resign from the school board.
Board, any other comments? Topics for discussion.
If I can finish my statements real quick, that wasn't the end. But I have 30 seconds.
Sure.
I found myself in a place that doesn't uplift, that breaks down, at least for me. And that's okay for me to choose something different. I know a lot of people voted for me and supported me and genuinely have cared for me. Thank you. I pray for you. For those of you that slaughtered a coyote and stuck it on my son's car, Those of you that stalked my daughter, I don't like it. Those that attacked and damaged my house, I don't like it. Please don't do it. I don't care what side of the political aisle you are. These are new board members. Provide them the safety and their families the safety and the respect that they deserve. I do not believe any of these board members directed anybody to do that. I want to be very clear. Mr. Boyd and I talked about that. I don't think any of them asked somebody to do it. But they never asked anybody to stop. Never. And so with that, I will fulfill my duties in the next couple weeks. I will give back all my materials. I thank you for the opportunity to serve. For those who when I ran for election, I ran to be a voice. Those who needed a voice. I'm sorry I won't be able to be that voice anymore. But you got to stand up and be your own voice and make your own choices. Thank you.
Board, any other topics for discussion? Mrs. Steele.
Just a couple tonight. I wanted to go to written information and also say thank you. It is so fun for me to see these aerial views of Santa Fe Trail Middle School, my alma mater. So happy for that community of students and families to be getting this amazing, beautiful new building. So that is super cool to see. And then I also wanted to comment on the parent-teacher conference data. I discussed this with Dr. Yeager earlier. Our elementary data is amazing. I mean, who would have thought 94% of students are represented by a parent during parent-teacher conferences? We certainly have a fall-off at middle school and high school, and that's something that I know that our people are going to be looking at. Maybe we need to grow with the times and come up with something incredibly creative. Maybe parent-teacher conferences, the way we do them, isn't as maybe our parents aren't able to get to them. I know that you guys will come up with something pretty amazing to make sure that our parents are still engaged with what's going on with their students in school. Lastly, let me think. I do have this idea, Mr. President, and I'd like to present it as an option, not something that I'm asking for action on, but just something for us to continue to talk about as a board. I think it would be a great idea that going forward, we have certain policies that we come up with that we read as a board, that we understand that we are willing to remind ourselves of straight from policy BH. Maybe we read those at the beginning of a board meeting. Maybe we have a set that we read. Maybe we have one board member choose one of these each month. I don't know what the answer is, but I would like these BH policies to be before us and have us state them to the community as commitments that we are making to each other and to our boardmanship as we serve. Lastly, I just have a little bit I want to say to Joe and Shannon. For your 8 years of dedicated service, you both have poured yourself into this role with a commitment and leadership that is respected by many. Some people want the seats that you have had at the school board tables for reasons that are fueled by anything but support and respect for what this district does for our community and for our students, but not the two of you. You two are the reason that good people want to be here. I ran because of the respect I have for the leadership that came before you and that you brought in your 8 years. So thank you very much. A retired public servant of over 20 years here in Olathe that I was talking with earlier tonight said it well. The best part of serving is after the serving. So enjoy and thank you, and you are appreciated.
When I started serving on this board, I had the pleasure of learning under you two gentlemen. I remember a phone call with Shannon about board leadership, and Shannon, with his infinite wisdom, informing me that I hadn't been through a negotiating cycle before, or just ran down this litany of things that I wasn't aware that, I had to do or had to become more aware of. And I say that to say that you don't know what it's like to be in the seat until you're in the seat. When you're expected to run this meeting, have it be efficient and orderly, Joe, you specifically set the bar so incredibly high. I can't imagine running a meeting where there's 50 people signed up to, express their frustrations with decisions that we have made. And you did that with no time limits, month after month, so folks felt heard and created space for them. And I appreciate the example that you have shown. Your calm, steady hand guided the ship through those waters. And I'll tell you, as someone who started their tenure in January 2020, and COVID hit in March 2020, it was being thrown into the fire, and I wouldn't be able to survive it without your leadership. So thank you. Shannon, you and I have grown to become friends, and I am happy that I can call you a friend. Our candid phone calls and our candid conversations, sometimes we can just look at each other and know what one another is thinking. I'll definitely miss that, but I tell you, I believe that you both have prepared me well to lead this board, and I am so incredibly thankful, not only for your leadership, but the past leadership of some of our other board members. We saw Brent McEwen upstairs earlier, and Lietta. It's scary to think that in January I'll be the most senior board member. I don't know if that's happened before in our district where someone with 4 years was the most senior. But, I like to think that, my God wouldn't put me in a position that he didn't prepare me for. Along with your leadership and your examples, I feel prepared. So on behalf of our board, our school district, our community, thank you for your servant leadership. And as you're sitting at home, I've heard a rumor that, our board members, our board meetings were must-see TV. So as you're sitting at home, the first Thursday of every month, pop some popcorn, pour yourself a cocktail, and enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Yeager, floor is yours, sir.
Well, no big acts to follow tonight. So, I really appreciate the opportunity each month to share a few comments with our board and obviously in turn our public. But, I just want to recognize you all tonight as a collective board for the hard decisions that you had to make tonight. Adjusting the start and end time for our school system is not an easy task. And, certainly, our staff, Dr. McMullen and Olivia Malone have and many others have worked their tails off to try to, get the right balance and make the right recommendation. But at the end of the day, it's you all that really have to struggle with the decision based on, certainly the information from the district, but also the feedback that you get from within our community. And I just want to thank you all for engaging in that process thoughtfully, openly with our community. It's not always easy. You don't have to go very far in our world to see, decisions that school districts have had to make where there wasn't that time, there wasn't that methodology or that focus on striking the right balance, and you all have done that. And I really just want to say thank you so much to you all for that. And I mentioned Jim and Olivia a second ago, but there is very little that's harder than working in a school district and being the people that are facilitating massive change, trying to synthesize the feedback from a very large population, ask questions, move forward, all those things. And I just want to thank Dr. McMullen for his work in that, and Olivia Malone, who's also here tonight. They've both worked tirelessly for well over a year on this, so thank you both for that. Your work is means a lot with that. One of the agenda items tonight that you all approved was our legislative priorities for this coming session. That's important to us as a school system, as you all have the opportunity to interact with elected officials in Topeka, as I have the opportunity to do that, and really gives our community an understanding of where the board is together in terms of what those priorities are for the Olathe Public Schools. Excuse me, I just wanted to call that out, that happened tonight, and that's an important piece for us as we go into the legislative session. I also would like to jump on the Shannon and Joe bandwagon for just a minute because, I've had the opportunity to know Shannon before he was on the board and Joe for quite a while as well. Joe, you look cooler going off the board than you did when you started the board. You said something earlier about your hair, or somebody said something about your hair. Maybe, I don't know who it was, but you look cool, Joe, and you look less serious than you did when you started. Maybe that may be a sign of the things you went through as a board member. And Shannon, same with you. You're always cool. But in all seriousness, as I think about the history of our school system and the things that you all have dealt with during your 8 years on the board, I think you'd be hard pressed to find people that have been through so much and done it with grace and poise and really focused on what's best for the school system as a whole. And so I just want to thank you for your commitment to our system, to our kids most importantly, and those pieces as well. And then Brad, I don't know. Hopefully it all works out for us in the future. In January, you will be the only sitting board member that actually interviewed me and hired me for this job. So I just thought I'd point that out. So if there's any superintendent board relation issues, it might be your fault. So, but you know, I am excited about you know, just opportunities that our system has continuing to move forward, but a lot of that is because of the decisions that you all made tonight and the thoughtful you know, guidance you provided our system tonight. And then Mr. Connell, I wasn't expecting that from you tonight, but I just want to also thank you for your time and commitment and your focus on our students and our school system as well. Those are my comments.
All right, moving on to 14.01. 30 minutes.
Yes, please.
I move that the board go into executive session for the purpose of consultation with an attorney for the body or agency, which would be deemed privileged in attorney-client relationship, and that the board return to the regular meeting at 8:55 p.m. in this room. Second? Can I get a second?
I need a second, guys.
Second.
We have a motion by Mrs. Steele and a second by Mr. Beveridge.
Mr. Connell?
Yes.
Dr. Yurkovich?
Yes.
Mrs. Steele?
Yes.
Mr. Wycliffe?
Yes.
Mr. Boyd?
Yes.
Mr. Beveridge?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhn?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Uh-huh.
I move that the board go into executive session for the purpose of. I was going to give them a hard time. This is my last
Shall I gavel it?
motion.
This is the most loud motion ever. Please.
I move that the board go into executive session for the purpose of consultation with an attorney for the body or agency which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship, and the board return to the regular meeting at 9:15.
Should we all three
this
second? Second. You got 3.
Mr. Beveridge?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhn?
Yes.
Dr. Yurkovich?
Yes.
Mrs. Steele?
Yes.
Time. Do you want a 3-minute warning, or are you down at 9?
We are adjourned.
Got a couple of signatures from you.